Oh, wow. We were just getting an extra bite there. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole, y'all. Foxtrotting in the Foxhole, Season 10, Episode 21, number 309 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan. Ice cold chillin' on a Friday. TGIF in it. Oh, yeah. Watching the Masters as Rory Boy is annihilating the course, especially now that Patrick Reed gave one back on the way out. Tommy Fleetwood -6. We'll talk about that coming up here shortly. Always like and subscribe to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. Help with the algorithm. Help a brother out. Watch it, getting this on Spotify. Like there. Tell your friends. You know, if you want to be on Aftershocks or the impending scene, let me know. I'd love to have you on there and get the party crackling. Always a shout out to the people the companies that help us put out content like Rode and Zoom. Definitely Rode kicking down, well, not kicking down, but rolling out really badass tools. And, like I said on Aftershocks the other day, we're cooking up some stuff here to really up the platform here a little bit, or at least it'll be more fun from this perspective, and hopefully from yours as well. All right, enough chitter chatter. Oh, yeah. You want to contact us, ftinfx@gmail.com, or call the hotline 541-525-0896. Okay, let's get some open face here and get number 309 rolling down the tracks. I talked about this at length the other day on Aftershocks, 039. The NFL media rights deal, they said it's going to be $16 billion, which I said the other day, and I'm still saying, this is just getting so absurd. And it bears mentioning out again because we're seeing more data about every platform is going to suffer in terms of when it's time for them to go to Mr. Moneyman and see what kind of checks will be written for them. You'll be looking at him like, bitch, give it all to the NFL. Which is really insane. It's so hard sometimes to wrap your brain around that. It's like, wow, this is like the most powerful entity. Oh, man. And I can see why Amazon, Mr. Bezos, and all of his number crunchers are like saying, hey, we're going to keep grinding away till we reach our ultimate goal, and that's to host the Super Bowl on our platform, which I'm just like, oh, geez. Are we really going there? But I can see it. I mean, based on the Final Four being on TNT and TBS, when that should be in CBS, and some of the other things that you're hearing in terms of really trying to force us all on some streaming platform, just basically the death of 1,001 paper cuts. This SJ Gets Down talks about one of her episodes. And yeah, she's got some new content coming out here soon, so keep an eye out for that. Let's see here. This is no surprise, this next bullet point. Mongo, Steve McMichael, that he had CTE. And just like, okay. In terms of these high contact, high impact players, I would expect nothing less. My question is, how, I know he had some struggles in the later years. I'm just curious, as some of these functional folks, what are we going to find, and what is that going to tell us when it comes to what CTE is? I'm sure we all have it. Anybody that's been in a contact sport, falling off their bikes, falling down drunk, all that kind of stuff. But, these guys, lots of high collisions, high impacts. So, anyway. Wow. You think something that started way back in the beginning of the century, we would have already went to trial, but leave it to the lawyers and the maneuvering So we find out today that Chucky, John Gruden, his trial, based on all the stuff that he has against the NFL, that's finally slated to begin about, I don't know, maybe a year from now, sometime mid-2027. Didn't this shit all start back in 21, 20, something like that? Whew. Then we've got this thing with LeBron, Memphis, and the culture. People caught him on the golf course. He said some unfavorable things about Memphis, which apparently is a prevailing thought throughout the league in terms of the players. I mean, obviously, he had a few other cities and other things to say. It doesn't really matter, though, when it comes to the Kang. If he does anything, folks are going to come with slings and arrows at him. That's just the kind of divisive figure he always is going to be. Some folks who are sympathetic, see it as unnecessarily piling on. Other people see it as, you always walk right into it. And obviously with this, with a camera being, everybody with phones and a camera, and then you go on somebody's podcast to refute this and that. And this is how we get to where we are. And, we got all kinds of whack stuff. Like they say, the clout chasers or the clickbaiters. I mean, it's with Stephen A. Smith and Matt Barnes. I mean, what the fuck is Matt Barnes doing getting this much shade? I mean, there's already one thing that, he's had. Oh, Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris on his podcast. And I'm sitting there thinking, this clown. I mean, it's just, I love it, when, because Kwame Brown, how Becky called him Becky with the golden hair. He came on Fearless again this week, and they were having some words because he came at Jason Whitlock, which it's weekly with these hens in terms of the kind of stuff that they're doing to build their brands. As Whitlock say, it's all a psych op, and it truly is. I mean, they're all in on it, and it's getting kind of shameless, and kind of hoping that the world kind of sees through that and starts giving, more people like myself or some of the other known players out there. Because it was kind of cool to see Keep the Vision making an appearance on Fearless. I'd like to see all these folks get some flowers. They actually have good content, and they're not out there shamelessly trying to build their brand. They're doing it with their talent and their insights, and this is what it should be about. Okay. So I'm watching the Masters, and they've had that moment where the CBS team kind of merges with ESPN, so we can all get ready for, it's going to be an interesting weekend. Although if Rory doesn't chill, this is going to be a yawner. He's up -10 now, up by 4. But Nance, obviously, one of the voices of all the big events, Jim Nance. I love what he had to say this week. Because obviously the Masters, this is his 41st. And, he's out there basically saying, look, man, all you folks sweat me about Tony Como. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I just shrug it off. I was laughing. I'm sure when you're an esteemed statesman in your profession, you can say that. And I'm sure it doesn't bother you because you both are getting nice checks and laughing all the way. So I kind of liked him saying that. I didn't think there was any lack of sincerity when he said it. So, still on the media. I don't know, what is up with this Dan Orlovsky? Are you trying to build your brand too? I mean, whatever you're doing, it does not seem to be working well. It seems like every time I turn around, somebody's up in that guy's keyhole about something. Yeah, I mean, and then his buddy Stephen A, who was caping for him, but Stephen A is caping for everybody right now. Right? He is out there every time a job comes up. He's always trying to push Lewis Reddick and Ryan Clark. Lewis Reddick kind of a problem, but Ryan Clark being in a front office, British Petroleum. You got Rocco. What is going on with them? They're going to have a package of 5 Savannah Bananas games. I mean, it's one thing if you're paying mad money at the stadium, but you're going to pay money to watch that? Maybe I just don't understand the viewing public as good as I should. I don't understand a lot of things right now. I mean, geez. I mean, that's the WTF. Offset taking a few rounds. Man, when are you guys going to stay away from these situations, man? You're better off just chilling in your home studio or having the homies come over and the sisters and all the buddies and all that kind of stuff. Supposed to be get out there taking lead. I'll leave you with this one. You see that picture of the surviving angels? You know what angels I'm talking about? Well, because I said surviving, which means because Farrah ain't with us anymore. But, Cheryl and Kate, which I haven't seen in years, and obviously Jacqueline Smith, who can't get enough of the internet. I was just like going, sheesh, y'all should just make a movie and get all bad with it. With, a little CGI and AI as far as some of the stuff goes. We might get a good laugh out of her, at least, do a 2-hour TV movie. Hell, throw a bone to the folks from the boomer and Gen X generation. And because, right, Z and Alpha are so obsessed with anything we do, even though they want to distance themselves from us, they so be into it. All right, folks, we are up and running. When we come back, we will take the high view above the campuses of America. See you momentarily. All right. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Friday afternoon, lovely day before it gets wet and soaky over the weekend here in the Willamette Valley. Man, okay. I think we're just going to have to get the homies and homettes together. It's kind of early enough. We won't hit too much traffic. Get our Uber, get our boo-boos to the Eugene Airport, where we're going to do the Texas two-step through TSA, hopefully avoiding any distractions, high-fiving and backslapping along the way till we get to the tarmac where our shimmering Gulfstream G650 awaits us, where we're going to get to a cruising altitude of 43,000 feet, where we're going to take the high view above the campuses of America. What's going on here? Well, I spoke about this on Aftershocks. I always got to plug the show, give you a reason to watch, and we see that Roy Boy is just cooking. We'll get there in a minute. But I talked the other day about the Donald Trump and his executive order, which is folks are hoping it's going to fix the crisis that we are currently having on campus. The things we've been talking about on this podcast now for, 6 years on pretty much here. And it's interesting. I think there's a sigh of relief. I mean, I'm not sure what the culture is thinking because the culture is just the culture. It's got a mind of its own. But I think the adults in the room are kind of like, yeah, you know what? I might be cool with this. Because, the NCAA has submitted a proposal which kind of runs along those lines. And it's kind of like, does this sound familiar? Oh, the IOC comes up with a proposal that sort of dovetails what the policy is in the country when it came to the ban. Of course, the next Olympics being in the United States in 2028, so it makes sense. And I thought it was interesting what Matt McChesney, the Colorado guy who appears on a lot of stuff and is actually kind of launching something this week, I think, with one of the bigger networks. Good for him. But, it's just, submitting these proposals, there's just something interesting about it all, right? In terms of what happens if, I guess, Harris, she just said she's going to run again, or she's thinking about it. Not like she's going to win, but, that's a whole other conversation for somebody else's podcast. Point being is, let's say her or AOC or Bernie or a cast of whoever, right? I don't think Vance, if the Republicans were to win the White House in 2028, it's going to reverse any of this stuff. But let's say a Dem does win, and who knows where this is all going in terms of, you pass an executive order, and then the culture screams when they've got somebody that is favorable to them. So I don't know. We're just going to have to stay tuned for this, because I do think the adults in the room are like, okay, 5, there's no unlimited transfers, and you only have a limited time to get this done. Or you are SOMFL. Not rocket science here. Bravo. Because if we can get this out of the way, then we can get to some other things and truly have what will be the new normal. Woo, boy. Okay. I've got like a delivery order, and they keep texting me, and I'm just like, man, I can't stop this. And I reach for my phone and all this other stuff. But another interesting thing is the SEC, right? They are guy from Alabama, and there's some people in the higher ups. They're all pretty much like, you know what? We need to just dump the conference championship games. We've been talking about this, and it's getting some momentum. But I love how they are dressing it around, oh, gee, you're going to expand the playoffs, and if you're going to expand the playoffs, and it's just has less meaning, and it's kind of more of a hardship. It's like bullshit. It's just, you want an easier path to the playoffs, and playing in these conference championship games are obviously sometimes a trap, if not a death sentence for a certain team. And it's just like, F the law, let's get straight to the playoffs. I'm kind of either way. I just think it's just disingenuous how you're mapping it. It's just like, no, don't talk about hardship. Just say, damn it, you want to take one less obstacle as far as the pathway to the playoffs out of the way. Yeah, right? Okay. What about, talk to you, a little bit about the game. It was still kind of fresh in my mind on Wednesday, but it just kind of shows you college basketball where it's at right now, where it's Friday. The game was Monday. You can't, I've been, other than the kid who's staying, I couldn't tell you anybody at Michigan. I definitely can't tell you anybody from UConn, okay? The only reason I can think of UCLA is because I saw Lauren Betts at Raising Cane's. Everybody's got to do their shift at Raising Cane's after winning the ring so they can be among their people. Good for her, though. But yeah, Michigan, flowers to them, for grinding out their second natty. Love some of the commentary leading in, how folks say, isn't it interesting how nobody really remembers the 89 team with Steve Fisher that actually won, with Ramil Robinson and all that stuff, right? But we always care about the Fab Five because they were such trendsetters in that same way, like Allen Iverson, right, who didn't win anything either. But it's like, oh no, but he set the trend, and this is what we want to remember years later, as opposed to the Michigan team that actually won. But now they have somebody sitting with them, so I'm sure they're still pounding them down in Ann Arbor, and everybody's got a smile on their face because hey, winning a natty is cool. I can tell you, folks here really would want that moment so bad. I mean, aesthetically speaking, the game was not the best. But as we said the other day in Aftershocks, you kind of come to expect that, right? Big takeaway here is that the Big Ten pocketing $70 million in revenue from this tournament. Not bad, right? I mean, I talked about this the other day about how they've become sort of the kings and queens of college athletics, based on their success over the last couple of years. The interesting thing, though, are some of the reports coming out of Eugene, which seem to confirm what we've been saying on this podcast and Aftershocks with whenever I get Alec Ford on and we chat and all that stuff. Yeah. It's pretty clear, you know what I mean? I don't know, the stuff coming out of Dana Altman's mouth as far as the roster goes, it didn't matter to me because it really says Phil is obsessed with being on the football mountain, and basketball is a redheaded stepchildren, and everybody else is. And I talked about this the other day. What about the other sports and this madness to build a football powerhouse and this new normal where that's where the dollars are? If you can be a sustainable program, and as long as you've got Phil Knight money, well, GB Coelicers, you can be a sustainable entity. I just think it's interesting, though, that it's pretty clear that they ain't spending no money. Or not enough money. Which is crazy, given the Big Ten, the success they had in this tournament. Getting that cash, I mean, after all, this final, actually, I don't know. Once again, you take this with a grain of salt every time you hear it, but this final was the most watched since 2019, so there's something to be said about that. Okay. As far as eyeballs, I don't know what to believe anymore. But we'll take them at their word. That is a positive sign for what we feel is a product that has been lagging for quite some time. And flipping over to the side to the ladies, like I said, give UCLA their flowers. Give Carrie Close, who was at her wit's end a few weeks ago, as I said the other day. The question is, will she sing a different tune now that she's slipping that stone on her finger? Just like saying, how do you like me now, bitches? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see what her outlook is now. And obviously winning a national championship and joining the men as far as the Holland Howls of Westwood. Yeah, it's, it's cool seeing Lauren Betts on CBS LA doing her stint at Raising Cane's and all that. And then you got Gino in the aftermath, which, as I said the other day, you have to give Lady Dawn credit for really diffusing this, not taking the victimhood far. And this thing died away because, let's face it, nobody cares about that product at this point. They'd rather simp and fight over Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, who should be getting more flowers than the ones that are not. You care about that now, as opposed to what's going on in the women's game. And that's why this whole thing with Gino melting down is like, people thought it was going to be Vesuvius. It turned out to be, some, maybe an M80 that somebody threw and scared the piss out of people for about 2 seconds. And was like, meh, move on. Another interesting thing in the aftermath, I mean, there's like thousands of people that are in the men's portal, right? As soon as they had just put the ball caps on and were cutting the nets, and mofos were already entering the portal. Lady Vols down to nobody. I thought it was one, but I'm hearing now it's nobody. and they don't really like the coach. And this is what can happen in this era where we can all get in our little circles, our little cells, and just be like, we gonna do her. And I gotta think, if you lose your whole squad to the transfer portal, something's broken in a program that the great Pat Summitt made legendary. Yeah. How about Hannah Hidalgo returning for her senior year? Just saying, F the W. There's money there, but I can get another bag here. Like I said with Dante Moore, you only have so many chances to be the badass. And we don't know where Juju's going to be coming up of that catastrophic injury. So this might be Hannah's world, and we're all living in it. Time will tell. This is kind of disturbing, though. I mean, the kid from Colorado, the quarterback, you know, it was a tragic period. I'm not saying it wasn't, but boy, it just hits harder when you find out that his blood alcohol content was 0.167. Man, it's like, bros, sisters, call Uber, do anything. You do not want to end up in your 20s being daisies or being an urn on somebody's mantle, okay? It's just too bad. Yeah. All right, we're going to turn to a more positive thing. You're going to love this Coach Sig, Kurt Signetti. He comes out and just basically just says, yo, man, I hate to tell you all, we still got a chip on our shoulder. We're still mad at the world because you all say this is a fluke. And I'm ready to come back and whoop your asses again. Boy, I can't wait to see what the next episode looks like as far as that goes. Selling those kind of tickets. Okay, folks, it's time to get the plane back on the ground. When we return, we'll come back with a Masters Inspired, something you should probably know segment. See you momentarily. Okay, welcome back to the Foxhole. Ice cold chilling like a funky cold Medina, whatever that means. Watching Rory Boy line up for another putt, which what would this make this round? I mean, it's already ridiculous. You sit here and watch this while I'm talking, and I mean, he's just cooking. Wow, good Lord. Rory friggin' McIlroy with a sizzling 65. And right now has a 6-stroke lead at the halfway point of the Masters. Wow. Largest 36-hole lead in Masters history. Mofo is cooking. And man, you know what? I got this course. I just own this course, and I'm going to own this tournament. I'm going to hit some Tiger-like history. Try to. You keep playing like this. Damn. I know. I mean, it's Augusta. The spotlight's on you. This is the weekend. You see Brandel Chambly talking about, how you're supposed to act. And, just the reverend. You got fools bringing their, trying to talk on their phones. I mean, even Mark Calcavecchia, obviously a distinguished tour vet, he's on the senior tour or whatever it's called, getting booted off for getting caught using his phone. People getting put in bracelets for, using the smart glasses. And, oh yeah, it's just, it's a spectacle. It takes over in the pageantry and the visuals. I agree with some people that some of the shit's over the top. It's what was that? Former ESPN anchor Troy Wingo echo those sentiments on X. And yeah, there's at some point it does get a little small. See, and I pray props to him for calling that out. But at the same time, it's just such an incredible experience, and it's cool that it's all over the place, right? Masters.org. It's early enough. It's on Prime early enough. It's none of this sitting around getting all pissed and get ready to blow a vein. Just like, where is it? So yeah, I mean, I'm digging that. So far as the streaming goes, it's been good. I mean, you're gonna have your usual hiccups anytime you use the Xfinity Stream app. I mean, we might have to do a whole episode about how effed up that is. Ooh, man. The thing is too, right? It's interesting to see Rory sparkle. Meanwhile, Bryson and Rahm have been fizzling. Bryson may have made the cut. I'm not sure what Rahm is doing. I'll have to see a full leaderboard to determine that. But we'll be talking a lot about how this tournament ends up. I thought it was interesting. Speaking of Brandel Chamblee, speaking of the Live Boys, he's just like saying, "Let's call it for what it is." More people watch pickleball than this lousy product. I just said, "Damn, y'all." I said, "Damn." It's okay. We're getting some. Brooks Koepka, though, looking good. Okay. He's still, he's in negative numbers. So he's just like, what you talking about? But, Rory just being a stone cold baller. I mean, lost in this. JJ Spawn winning a rain-soaked Texas Open last weekend. We talked a little bit about the par 3. The other day, I mean, there's so much cuteness and hotness. I'll say it again. I'm not going to be ashamed. The cuteness we get, the hotness, well, just depending on what your aesthetic is. But yeah, it's fun. I do think it is pretty funny that there is quite a bit of pushback as far as Kelsey. Try ESPN once again trying to make him another one of the faces of the network and trying to inject him into everything because obviously you can't let McAfee out there because the course banned him long ago for his antics. It's like, hey, this is Augusta. We don't need your Jim Bob yelling nonsense down here. But yeah, it's funny though. The peanut gallery is pushing back hard, just like saying, you know what? It's one thing the first Kelsey's done during football season. Oh man, did you see the flag football team that's consisted all of Swifties? They all got Chiefs uniforms. Yeah, 2026, the gift that keeps on giving. Let me tell you. Okay, let's flip the switch. Let's go to the track. Kind of interesting. I didn't know this, and shows you that I need to talk to the quarterman more often during, at least once or twice a month, or at least get a little IM going with them. But of course, because I'm scatterbrained, trying to do so much with getting this platform together for the next gen as we get near start year 6. But Alex Bowman is like cleared the race. He's been out for 4 races. And I kind of was wondering why he hasn't seen him, but he's been like at vertigo. And I'm thinking, man, that's messed up. I know when I had long-term COVID, I had like vertigo for 2 months. And it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So yeah, props to him, finally, getting some sense of normalcy back and being able to hop into the car. And we're ready to race this weekend. The F2 calendar, where Mr. Herta is now playing a straight, well, the way their calendar is situated, Colin is not going to be able to race in this year's 500 as many had hoped. Come over and make a cameo, but it's like, no, dude. I got my career trajectory. I know what I'm going after. Flipping to the F1 thing. I guess the word around the campfire when it comes to Mad Max and, his petulant whining and his constant threats of, oh, the circuit sucks and I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to be here till 40. I don't know who it was, But I think it echoed the sentiment of many. It was like, okay, great. If it's so terrible, then get the F out. Go be happy. Take your bags, go hang out with your lady or ladies, and go live your life. Otherwise, shut the F up, deal with the changes, and drive that effing car's ass off. It's not, we don't need to hear constantly about how much you hate the circuit and how you're going to quit. And it seems that that's a pretty popular sentiment right now. His dad, I think it was, says he ain't going anywhere. He's just being a little bitch. So we got UFC 327 this weekend. And I'll say this again, too. Where is the buzz for this circuit? 'Cause there ain't none. I seen, the headlines, and I was looking, putting the bullet points together for this episode. I'm just sitting there like, man, you gotta be kidding me when it comes to this particular circuit. And I don't want to give Ronda Rousey any credit or the umbrella that she's fighting under, but gee whiz, somebody do something to create a buzz as far as the UFC goes. These UFCs kind of come and go. Some have, some notable moments, but for the most part, it's kind of like, no wonder our eyes perk up when Conor actually says something, even though we know Conor's probably never entering the octagon again. Jeez. I don't know, man. Where's the buzz for this circuit? Look at Rory, boy. Just looking so poised, looking so confident. Like I said, I got this bitch. I'm going to get a Shake Shack and some fries and a shake, yo. Hot fries, as SJ Gets Down would say. Okay, let me get the train back on the tracks. Okay, we are salty a lot on these platforms, so we have to be nice and happy when people are doing cool stuff or doing good things, as we mentioned the other day about some of the stuff like Baker getting the hair painted for the kids that have pediatric cancer and things like that and stuff. Pediatric, you know what I'm talking about. Oh man, but Canelo, yeah, that Canelo. Hell yeah, he is going back to school. And, going to school. And, right, he's, he's kind of trying to broaden his horizons, and I like that. And he's actually enrolled at SDSU, Azteca. Well, I won't say what I used to say in Northridge when it came to the Aztecs, but cool. He's enrolled in the Integrative Studies program. What Integrative Studies is beyond my pea brain, especially in this newfangled world, but good for Canelo. Okay. The UFL. Yes, that UFL. We're trying to pay more attention now that they are executing what looks to be a wiser business plan. But then I hear this that says, I don't know. They're talking about expanding in 2028. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Well, let's see how 2026 goes before our eyes get bigger than our stomach. Okay? Then we'll flip it over to the legendary Megan R. Because Megan R. getting beat up all over the place. Miss Rapinoe. Wow. Yeah, her take, her and Sue going on their platforms. I don't know who said it the other day. I think this girl who was checking out her podcast. She was kind of laying it down, just saying about how tired she is of hearing the same tired shit from her. And I think it was Emily Jahinsky and Megan Kelly were also talking about it. And I think it was Emily Jahinsky who basically just said, 2019 what she's saying gets a lot of resonance, given where it was going on, especially, what was to come with George Floyd and the pandemic and the kind of traction her message had. Whereas we've flipped 2 or 3 scripts since that time period in 2026, she just looks like kind of a fool. Yeah, right. And when she comes out there and says about the small numbers, you don't get it, woman. You get your truth. Like so many in this effed up world we're in right now. But the fact is, there are lots of people who say this is a line they do not want to cross. They don't want to let you cross. I don't know, but like I said earlier, let's see what happens if there's a regime change. A regime brought the kind of thinking that empowered her. A regime change brought the kind of power that's kind of like made her basically irrelevant in this day and age. Alrighty, folks, we're going to boogie bang to the beat. When we come back, we'll talk some NBA. All right, then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your host, faithfully, Ken Harlan. Ice cold chillin' like a funky cold Medina. Rory's world, and everybody else is definitely living in it right now if this keeps up. Okay, let's go to the hardwood. Whoa, somber one here. He played in the NBA, but he's more known for being on those legendary Jerry Tarkanian running Rebs teams, the stuff that legends are made of. And he was definitely one of those. I know that I went to UNLV after that era, but I know quite a few people who, some of my colleagues were TAs, and there are some stories, all right, as far as the golden age when it was the only show in town. Yeah. Anyway, the legendary running Reb crossed the Rainbow Bridge. Our condolences go out to his family, obviously, the Rebel Nation. Hey, Reb, somewhere, pour one out. Okay, so around the league, as we're getting closer to the finish line of what's been a very interesting season, some things are starting to take shape. One, the Bulls firing their general manager and team president, which to me may be a sign that maybe, just maybe, they're beginning to take things seriously again. Then I hear they're giving Nico Harrison a look. Like maybe you're not being serious enough. But then again, you can't really crumb on Nico that hard for making the Luka trade. After all, they did construct a team that got to the finals. And the remnants of it, along with now you have Cooper Flag, seems like get Kyrie back. It seems like something can happen there down in Dallas. So I think I don't know, maybe going with Nico might not be a bad idea. Obviously, what was going on in Chicago really wasn't working and not even remotely close, especially when you look at some of the teams like Atlanta and Charlotte that have risen in the East. And they definitely are careening out of control down the Lahotzi face. If you watch Mountaineer videos like I do. I think I told you the one last week about the Sherpas going soprano style, man. Jesus. Okay, keep the track on course. No surprise here. The taking discourse continues. It's interesting as far as Commissioner Silver. I get it that he's hearing the critics, the peanut galleries, obviously the media, all these mofos have podcasts. He's hearing a lot of stuff and he wants to do something about it. And it's kind of curious because I don't really know if this is a Don Quixote kind of situation, or you do away with the draft, or I don't know. I mean, it's not tanking, I mean, that's such a huge thing, you throw in the load management part of it, I guess is what I really mean to say. Yeah, I mean, you have to take the incentive out, but I don't think it's the fact that in the NFL it works, and I guess fewer games. I think that's the problem that Commissioner Silver is up against as far as a diminished product. Especially, the product's diminished to the point where, folks are saying, oh, we gave you $76 million, $76 billion, or whatever the hell it was, for media rights, long term. We might want some of that back. And you all are talking about some expanding? I don't know what the hell you talking about, child. So, excuse me. Got a little bit of the cough here. But yeah, this is an interesting situation that is truly developing as far as this tanking thing is concerned. And trying to get your arms around it. We'll be talking about this much more as time moves on. How can we not? From the Department of Why Did It Take You So Effing Long? Terry Rozier. Yeah, that Terry Rozier. Well, I figured Miami would have jettisoned his ass a long time ago, given all the stink that is on that doo-doo that is associated with him. I'm sure there's all kinds of issues as far as dealing with the NBA, PA, and all the other obstacles in the era of player empowerment. But nonetheless, there must not be that many because apparently they were going to waive him and just wash their hands and probably ending his NBA career. Because I do not believe anybody will touch him after everything that supposedly has gone down. Of course, you're going to probably always play it overseas and be still needing that check. But bigger concern for him is, do you stay out of the gray bar Hilton? Okay. Well, as we get to the finish line, we know some things that are going on right now, out west, even out east. We'll start out west. Denver, 10 in a row, back in the third spot. Oklahoma City, 7 in a row, clinched number 1. Just doing that voodoo that they do as we get close to the finish line. Scary in both cases. Could be a great series if those two match up later on. Over in the East. Okay. And then make up your mind. Tatum's out most of the time. Now he's back. And then Mr. Brown is out last night when they were playing the Knicks in Gotham. And what happens? The Knicks outslug the Celtics. Great game. But, with Brown out, you have to take a great... Knicks fans, don't do the victory lap yet. If Boston was playing with a full clip, you don't win that game. Am I lying? Spike up there with that dope Knicks hat on, just all beaming. I'm like, come on, man. They don't have a full clip. Let's not kid ourselves. Oh, breaking news. Gee, what perfect. I was about to talk about this anyways. So, okay, Wimpy hurt his ribs in between the time that we last talked. And there was some serious concern because he's right up against the threshold. I talked about this on Aftershocks the other day of possibly missing out on the postseason of the Wars, which he really wants. So he's going to play tonight. I think he has to play 20 minutes basically down the road. So really you could even go 10-10 the rest of the way. He should be good to go. Oh man, there's just so much stuff going on in the background. I love it. But yes, so he's going to play tonight. He probably will play 20 minutes, but I'm sure they're going to really monitor that. No, Lakers, talked about them. They hit the bricks, obviously, with the injuries to AR-15 and Luka Doncic. Cooper Flag went for 50 and 40, and right? That's part of the storyline. But the thing is, they played Oklahoma City again. I mentioned it the other day. Got their ass handed to them. The thing about it was last night, against the vintage LeBron, that was a very big win for them. I think they did not want to fall down to the 6th position and have to face Denver. The way it's looking now, it's probably going to be them in Houston, just flip-flopping in 4 or 5. That's not going to be easy without AR-15 and Luka, but it's possible. Whereas the way Denver's playing right now, if they fall to 6, going to get that ass. That was a big win for the Lakers last night. What else do we have going on here? Let's talk about some Blazers. Let's get some Oregon love since we do live in Oregon. The Blazers ownership approval crosses the finish line, and now the real talk can begin when it comes to the $600 million renovation that folks would like to see happen at the Moda. But it's just messages, just everything's pinging around here right now. But I'm kind of curious to see, especially given, where we are as a country economically, and in this state, which always goes through its ups and downs, right, how feasible this is. I mean, in the era where entertainment's premium, clearly if networks want to pay, are going to agree to pay the NFL $16 billion a year. I'm always curious though. I get it, in certain places, but I know what a struggle it is. I've lived here for almost 3 decades now for things to happen, and so you're going to have it. You're going to be in the league to be competitive. You just wonder how much stomach the public has to foot most of the bill, or do they somehow turn this back on Homeboy's ownership group that's running the show now, as far as the Blazers are concerned? Yeah, I'm sure we'll be conversing aplenty about that. Right? Let's see here. I know there was something else I was going to mention. Oh no, that's probably not. The Angel Reese trade to Atlanta. Oh man, talk about pennies from heaven for content creators. Still so much to unpack with this one, especially with her teammates basically doing the happy dance now that the Wicked Witch has vacated the building. Woo. It's pennies for heaven for the content creators. I mean, talk about just blessings, falling from the sky. I mean, the internet, which is always undefeated, right? Having Atlanta Dream jersey, but it's like a brick theme jersey. I just like, wow, man, just savage. It's, with all this nonsense, and obviously, was it Lexi Hole that went on, was it Fox News? And that's got the Caitlin Clark army up in a tizzy, like, what you saying, girl? What you saying, girl? What you saying, girl? So, yeah, in spite of how weird the offseason has been, for the queens of the court, yeah, there's no shortage. There can be no shortage of storylines. Watching how the content creators in that world are just frothing at the mouth, basically, over this stuff. It's just, it's a joy to see. How about that? How about frigging that? It is truly a joy to see. We still got people on the course? Like Brooks Koepka? Nah, it's got to be too late for that. It's like 8:05, y'all. Must be earlier in the day. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But I mean, it's all about those dollars. You're starting to see some really impressive contracts. A lot of movement as far as the W is going. They got the bag, and the girls are getting the bag. Yeah. Go look up some of those numbers, y'all. All right, folks. We got enough out of that. When we come back, we are going to go pitch. No, we're going to go. We're going to order this week. We're going to go with the Nightfall of Diamonds when we return. See you momentarily. All right, then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Friday somehow turns into Saturday. Yeah, we started this on Friday. Then we had all kinds of people in the nest, including the legendary SJ Gets Down and a few other. Anyway, on Saturday, watching a little Masters coverage after Rory Boy just annihilated the course with that 65 on day 2, leading by 6. Watching a little John Rahm, who made the cut. Good for him. Okay, folks. Well, it's time for a little Nightfall of Diamonds, which means it's Dark Star crashes, mirror shatters. Really cool of our man, Mr. Miller, to drop some soundboards this week of the legendary Phil and Friends runs of 1999 with the legendary Mighty Toaster Steve Kamak. It was a nice treat, kind of reliving that. Let's see, what else do we have, the hippie stream? Oh, yeah. Really psyched to see that Fish is going to live stream all 9 shows of Spear 2 starting next weekend. I'm excited about that. Unlike the Snooze Factory, that, we want our experience just to be special and didn't stream anything. Not that I would have friggin' watched, but at least Fish just says, nah, man, we got you. It's really good. And of course, leave it to somebody else to hop on the GD train, the GD night train. That's Grateful Dead night. The Blazers last night, having some Dead cover band play in front of the Moda Center before the game last night. Man, it does kind of, like I said, it's so shameless at this point when it comes to people exploiting the Dead and all that kind of stuff. Oh, man. But whatever, people are having fun, so who am I to crumb all over it? It's like the same thing. Someone was like, hey, dude, Bob Dylan's coming back to Eugene. I said, you do realize the last time he came here with Mavis Staples almost put my ass to sleep, where I'm like, okay, I've seen Dylan enough times. It will not bother me if Bob rolls through town and I ain't there. He'll understand. Oh, man, I'll leave this, the hippie part of this, with this one. Okay, pranksters, or prankster spin-offs, siblings, or not siblings, but offspring. Now you're selling bus flake pendants, the bus further, and now there are apparently people selling pendants. What the hell? And you suckers are probably buying it? What's up with that? Jeez. Don't you love it when your tablet doesn't want to cooperate? Yes, bus flake pendants. Come on now. All right, let's get to the real Nightfall of Diamonds. Start out with a somber one. Legendary LA Dodger, Davey Lopes, part of that incredible infield that stayed together, most of the 70s. Great base runner. Later had some time with the A's, great baseball coach, but a very beloved figure. A great story of my brother in the 81 World Series, sitting next to Lopes's family, and he made an error, And it's like my brother's like, "Hey, Lopes, you suck," and some other expletives. Apparently, Lopes's people did not like that. I thought it's but legendary figure as far as baseball and LA Dodger lore is concerned. Our condolences go out to his family and all the old school Dodger fans that will always have a love affair with the team in the 70s. They should have won more championships, but they ran into buzzsaws like the Oakland A's and the New York Yankees until they won in the strike-shortened year of 1981. Okay, let's move on to some positive stuff. Boy, I tell you, folks, and people say, oh, nobody cares about baseball. Well, maybe they should in terms of making their kids, or at least encouraging their kids to play, because I just found out this week the average salary for a major league player now is at $5.4 million. $5 million. This is for, your run-of-the-mill scrubs. So what the F does that say? Another big question that's coming across the bow this week is, does baseball need an international draft to stop the chaos and anarchy that's attached to these people from Latin America and Asia? Probably. One more way to keep teams like the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets from swallowing up all the talent. Yeah, it probably should be an international draft. No objections from the Foxhole as far as that goes. That it was kind of interesting watching Jorge Soler and Ray Lopez. Got 7 games for that brawl in the Braves-Halos game earlier in the week. I think Lopez, or maybe it was Soler, got his bump down to 5 already. I know these guys thinking they can fight, and they look worse than a bunch of school children trying to get it on as far as that goes. And I mean, get it on as in fight, not that get it on. We aren't that dirty this early in the morning. Whew, man. Okay, Dodgers last night, Max Muncy, 3 home runs, including a walk-off. First to get to 10 wins. It said Dodgers doing Dodger kinds of things. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, so ESPN did its story on this round of City Connects. So I'm just gonna real quickly. There's like 8 teams on Thursday unveiled their City Connects, and so what does the Foxhole think of these? Let me see if I can figure out what this picture is. The Pirates one doesn't look too bad. The Orioles, at least it's better than the softball version they had. I already mentioned that I love how the Braves went old school. I'm not sure what the Reds are doing there. And then the Texas with the Tejas looking like, that solid red LA Angels top. That's what it really looks like to me. So nothing really original there. I don't know about this Royals one either, to be honest. Yeah. Oh, it sells more gear, as I've said far too many times here. Teams looking for a revenue stream, and we've all got to look live, or our partner has to look all fresh with her cut. Oh, it's still fun for people like me just to get a good laugh. Okay. Another interesting thing coming from ESPN.com was they mentioned their top 50 free agents over the last 5 decades. And I thought it was interesting just looking at the top 5. Obviously, Barry Bonds going from Pittsburgh to San Francisco was number 1. And I have a problem with that. You know what I think about Barry in terms of as impressed as I've been by Shohei's run, jeez, man, Mr. Bonds, that stretch from like 98 to, 04 or 03, whatever the hell. But, I'm cool with that. And I would put Greg Maddux going from Chicago to Atlanta, number 2. I've no problems with that either. given how solid he was throughout his career, one of the greatest pitchers we've ever seen. Number 3, Big Poppy going from Minnesota to Boston. Hard to argue that. I mean, does anybody even remember him as a Twin? You know, given all the money that guy had in his wallet when it was winning time. No problem there. Where I start to have a problem, though, is number 4, Larry Walker. And I know Larry Walker put up some great numbers. British Petroleum on that one, though, over Randy Johnson. What did Larry Walker? No, Randy Johnson. Are we kidding? Are we being serious here? Larry Walker in the top 10. Okay. Then there's, we, like I said, we want to keep it positive here. How about the Blue Jays? So they honor their 1977 team, they had a 77 cent promotion for hot dogs. And this just shows you that the world still loves a cheap bargain. Apparently, with these 77 cent hot dogs, this was playing the Dodgers the other night, they sold 102,000 by the 7th inning. 102,000 dogs. So much to unpack with that one, but I think that's pretty epic. Okay, let's hop on the Zamboni so we can take a ride around the ice rink of life real quick. A lot of stuff going on as we get closer to the playoffs. The Islanders fire legendary goaltender extraordinaire, blah, 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 Patrick Waugh. Yeah, Patrick Roy. He's told, you're not getting it done. And I always say when you get fired in the last lap of the regular season, it's like, wow, you really lost the locker room. And definitely trying to send a message. Waugh's old team, the Avs, I mean, after he did a stint with the Canadians, they lock up the President's Trophy. The President's Trophy, like the Supporters Shield, a lot of times you might win that and come away with nothing. Ask the Bruins, and that's what the Foxhole wants to know. Are the Avs going to be the latest team to lead most of the laps, but then get down to the bell lap and have no money in their wallet? Time will tell, right? Hey, props to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are back in the playoffs after a 3-year absence. I know some of my friends here will totally dig that. Big Pirates and Steelers fans. But yeah, the Penguins are back in the mix, so good for them. Okay, folks, that's the Nightfall of Diamonds. Dark Star crashing and Dodgers hitting walk-up homers, all encompassing Nightfall of Diamonds. When we return, we will go pitch side and talk some beautiful game life. A lot of good stuff happening on the pitch. See you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Kicking it in Eagles Nest 2, Studio B. Faithful host Ken Harlan here, watching the Masters. Switch over. Yeah. I'm glad that Prime is hooking us up on Saturday with some early coverage. We like that. Definitely past years, you've heard me bitch and moan when we're at the 8 and 9 o'clock hour on the West Coast, and it's like, British Petroleum, where's my Masters coverage at? Okay, we're going to go pitch side. A lot going on there. Let's see here. Let me go take a look at this here real quick before I get going here, so I can figure out what the heck is going on here.
If you want to learn how to fan the football way.
Oh, wow, look at this nonsense. No, we don't want to learn how to fan the football way. I know it's Saturday. Just waking up and making sure we get this done. But I need to figure out what time PSG is playing today before I do anything. And they don't play today, so maybe they have the weekend off. Okay, well, I will have to look into that. Let's get going. We do know the LAFC in Portland play 1:45 on Fox today. Tune in. Big matchup. But let's start with Champions League, UEFA first. Yeah, it's getting to the nitty gritty, and we had some huge matchups in the quarterfinal this past week. You had Bayern Munich going to Madrid, the fabled Bernabeu, getting a huge win, 2-1, with Harry Kane getting into the mix. Mbappe had one for Real Madrid, but it's going to be rough sledding for Los Blancos heading back to the Allianz for the return fixture. Arsenal took down Sporting 1-0. Sporting had some ridiculous streak that they were on. Sporting, tough out. PSG and Liverpool. PSG 2, Liverpool 0 at the Parc des Princes in Paris. Weird game there. Paris should have put up 5 or 6 goals, but their lack of being ruthless, being too clinical. We'll see if that bites them on the return fixture at Anfield this week. And then a shocker, Atletico beating Barcelona 2-0 at Camp Nou. They were down a man. I forget who got the red card. But yes, Barca up against it. Over in CONCACAF Champions League, a lot going on there with Nashville and Club America 0-0 heading back to Mexico. Tigres is up 2-0 after beating the Sounders. So the Sounders did not get any away goals down in Mexico, so they've got a lot of work in front of them when the fixture arrives up at Lumen midweek. LAFC, the aforementioned LAFC, they were at home facing Cruz Azul, and a really shocker, they put up 3 goals. No away goals for Cruz Azul. So when that goes back to Mexico midweek, Cruz Azul is the one. I think LAFC, all they need is 1 goal. And shit grief. Another clean sheet for Hugo Lloris. Yeah. And then you've got the Galaxy. They get 2 away goals, but Toluca puts up a 4 spot. So, yes, a lot of work for the Galaxy when that series goes to Dignity Health Sports Park midweek. Over in the MLS, Miami opens up its sparkling new crib. Messi scores, and the whole world loses its mind. It ends up being a 2-2 draw with Austin, which was kind of a shocker. Not sure what's really going on with Inter Miami. I mean, they're not playing completely like poo, but they're not dominating, and you've got to wonder, with this new stadium now in downtown Miami, another nice soccer specific stadium, is that going to make Inter Miami a player beyond MLS? It didn't happen yet this year in CONCACAF because they got bounced. They aren't part of this. We know they're the reigning champions as far as MLS goes. We still have the League's Cup to play, so time will tell. We don't know. We know the sand has to be running out of the hourglass when it comes to the great Leo Messi, who's got a stand named after him in this new wonderful facility that Mr. Beckham and partners have put together. Controversies aside, interesting times for sure. The once again mentioned LAFC in league play, getting another clean sheet, still unbeaten. Finally getting Sonny a little unlocked and untracked. Same with Denny Mwanga. The other thing that was interesting too over the weekend was Portland collapsing. I mean, they had the Whitecaps basically on the ropes. They were up a goal heading into stoppage time and somehow give up 2 goals, including one at the death, to lose a game they probably should have came away with points. So, tough run for Phil Neville and the Timbers Army right now. Just not getting it done. Still can't believe I'm not up in Portland today to watch the match, but I got too many other things happening in the Foxhole for me to be in Portland hanging with my District 9 Ultra brothers and sisters. They're going to have a great time, though. That's for darn sure. Okay, what else do we got going on as far as pitch side goes? Now, the latest rumor, and there's going to be one all the time, but apparently FC Cincinnati is really interested in Ney, as in Neymar. I don't know what to think about that, but then again, given some of the high-profile signings that have happened in the MLS in recent years, I mean, but of course, can the guy stay healthy for more than 37 seconds? But him going to FC Cincinnati, could be very spicy. I kind of like it, actually. If he is going to come to America, don't go play for Miami. And obviously, since LAFC has Sun, definitely don't go play for the Galaxy. But if he went to FC Cincinnati, that could be good TV. Interesting. Although I think it'd probably be better if he played for like New York City Football Club or Red Bull New York or something like that. But hey, what do I know? Obviously, Miami would be interesting with Griezmann already coming this summer. Anyway, U.S. men's national team suffers another blow with Patrick, how do you pronounce that? Agayemang out of the World Cup. He tore his Achilles. I mean, we've got lots of people who can step up, but boy, it just seems that every time you start to feel positive about our national team, they have a bad run like they just did, and now we're getting people injured in club play. 60 days, or less than 60 days now, I believe, away from the start of this. Hopefully, we start getting some good vibes as far as the national team is concerned. Brazil's national team re-ups Mr. Ancelotti through 2030. No surprise there. So, all you clubs out there hoping he can come be a savior, it's not looking like that's going to happen anytime until 2030. So, good for him. See, we had FA Cup last weekend where Manchester City just cooked Liverpool. So it was a tough week for the Reds, losing to PSG, with Mo Salah not even getting in, and then also getting cooked by Manchester City, who've had their ups and downs this year. And then, Southampton stunning Arsenal 2-1. So no soup for you Arsenal fans, at least as far as the FA Cup is concerned for 2026. PSG moves closer to the title in League One after RC Lens stumble again. PSG has a game in hand and they're up by 4. Yeah. Over in La Liga, Barca's up by 7, so no worries, right? Right? But gee, after what I saw in Champions League midweek, I don't know. Arsenal, speaking of the Gunners, they're up by 9. No worries, right? One would like to hope. Over in Liga MX, Chivas, they lead by 7, I believe it is. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Quick glance at the NWSL. We'll look at the power rankings. We haven't done that in a hot minute. It's kind of interesting that San Diego Wave is 1. The Thorns, Portland, number 2. No surprise there. I am kind of surprised that Angel City is number 3 right now. A club that I feel hasn't found its footing in its brief existence. Seattle's 4 and the Orlando Pride are 5. So that's what it looks like as far as the power rankings in the NWSL. All right then. We will come back and we will do a closer look when we return. See you momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your homie, Ken Harlan. Ice cold chilling like a funky cold Medina on a Saturday morning watching the Masters. Yeah. Okay, it is time to opinionate, editorialize, talk a little trash. You know, that thing we do called the closer look. Okay. Well, since I went out of order with soccer, this week, I think I'll start with a soccer bullet point. One of the interesting things that kind of came up, I just mentioned the last segment about LAFC playing Cruz Azul. And it was at BMO Stadium, formerly the bank. And you had this weird thing that kind of comes up, especially with a lot of fans in the MLS, who happen to be from like Mexico. And so when you're playing in these continental competitions, you have dual loyalties, right? You have people getting in the fights because, like, are you an LAFC fan or are you a Cruz Azul fan? And soccer is that weird sport where you can have loyalties spread out all over the place. I know, like in my particular case, I'm an LAFC fan, I'm a PSG fan, and I'm also a Sporting Cascades, formerly Lane United Football Club. And it's really weird because there are times when, via competitions, whether it be the U.S. Open Cup, the Club World Cup, right? These are times where it's like, okay, what happens if LAFC and PSG play? And I know this is always weird, with that. Not only CONCACAF, but also the League's Cup, where you have folks that are big fans of like Chivas and Tigres and Cruz Azul and Rados. And, and it's like interesting because you don't really have that in any other sport where it's like your fan loyalties, you have to figure that out because the hardcores say, hey, it's all about one badge or another or nothing else, which I totally get that. But soccer is weird in that way where, okay, you may have started out being a fan of the European teams because that's, obviously that's the most popular and, argued by many as the highest quality football on the planet. But I think, folks in Latin America and other places are just like, hey, British Petroleum. That said, to me, it's always fascinated me because I know that last year, like, in the Club World Cup, I'm sitting here wondering, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do if PSG faces LAFC? Am I going to have to like turn off the TV and not watch? Right? Because I'm like, my fan loyalty. So I can't really imagine if I am a season ticket holder for LAFC, for example, or even Inter Miami, or the Timbers. And let's say, I'm from Mexico and I've been a lifelong Tigres fan, excuse me. Yeah, they said it's one of the more fascinating things. And it led to this one cat he's actually from, where I grew up. He travels down like 4 hours for every home game, to see his beloved LAFC. And he was talking about, getting into it with, folks who are regular black and gold fans, but obviously have, also have strong ties to Liga MX squads. I'm just sitting there going, man, America in the mid 2020s, right? the gift that keeps on giving. Because this guy was telling me he was just really getting into it. It's like supposedly they're LAFC fans, but they're also Cruz Azul fans, and they were being real jerks apparently to this guy. I don't know why I chose that to talk about a closer look, because I just think it's fascinating, because you don't see that in any other sport. Okay, what else do we have here? Ooh, Dirty Diana and Magic Mike. What the fuck? Pardon my language. Yes, this whole thing with Miss Rossini and Mr. Vrabel. There's so much to friggin' unpack with this one. I've watched a lot of content this week, and the opinions are across the board. Some folks say, hey, if they're consenting adults, what they do on their own time is their own business. Why is somebody stalking them and then trying to make the big bag by selling the pictures to TMZ and other type of outlets? Yeah, I mean, never forget about, Vrabel and his supposedly good guy image. I mean, there's so much to unpack here, right? There are some people out there who think Miss Strunk Adams, his former employer, right? The, owner of the Tennessee Titans, she's the one that said, okay, I can't take it that this guy went to New England and is sticking it in our face. Self-righteous prick. Let me give him a little taste of his medicine. Boy, if that turns out to be the case, could be one of the spouses. And I love how, you've got people in the culture trying to, step up for her and protect her. Other folks asking the question like, oh, she's got to be cooked. Like, I think I said this the other day. I think this actually helps her. Now, she's always, exuded a lot of sexuality, right? She's kind of like, oh yeah, this is that girl that likes sports who, if we had a couple of beers sitting around watching the Masters, we could probably roll around in the hay for a few hours. She always is giving off that vibe, and she totally enjoys it, coming on like 106.7 The Fan, talking to B. Mitch and Mr. Finley. Oh, call me MILF. And just all these things, I mean, and even more slutty than Joy Taylor. And I think this is actually going to work for her in terms of, she doesn't really work for a network anymore. She works for The Atlantic, which is owned by the New York Times, and they'll come up with some term to protect her. But I think in terms of the pod spare, I can totally see her having kind of a X-rated adults type of sports podcast with a bunch of simps sitting there in their parents' basement doing unspeakable things. Yeah, I think this totally helps her brand. And it's just so fascinating. I know we're in draft month and, right, the Final Four is over. The playoffs haven't started in the AHL and the NBA. So it's like pennies from heaven. Right? The fact that we're talking about this, we're talking about Stephen A. Smith fighting the world, basically, but they're all in cahoots. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, we've got all this cool stuff that's actually kind of going on. But the biggest story is, sideline reporter getting it on with a, soon to be legendary coach. Ooh, boy. I'm sure the conversation at their dinner table has been really fun this week. Oh, at the Rossini and Vrabel households. It's funny, certain outlets like ESPN, they aren't getting near it. I haven't really watched FS1 this week because she does contribute to FS1. She shows up on Colin's show, and she, I think, shows up with Nick Wright and the boys as well occasionally. But, yeah, this is going to be another interesting one because, hey, maybe they just say, you know what, F it. Kick their current partners to the curb, and next thing you know, they become the power couple. 2026, y'all, and who knows what 2027 has to offer from the gift bag. But it wouldn't shock me, is all I'm saying. I just think it is so interesting. And they're digging up every salacious tweet this woman has had over the last, 5 or 6 years. So whether, there's any true smoke to to this fire, who the hell knows? The internet just loves it. It's pennies from heaven and they're running with it. All right, folks. When we come back, we will do some NFL report and some TMCA time to get you out of here so you can enjoy the Masters with some of this content. See you momentarily. All right, then. Here we go. Sprinting towards the finish line for episode 309. Like and subscribe to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. Drop us a line at ftinfx@gmail.com or call the hotline 541-525-0896. We'd love to hear from you. Hell yeah. I'd like to get on the show if you want something. If you got something you want to talk about, you're always going to hear me. But definitely like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The algorithm needs your love. Okay, so let's go to the No Fun League. Yeah, it could be a little bit no fun. Well, the NFL's in hot water over its streaming policies. Basically the monopoly. Although the insiders definitely say folks who are worried about the NFL losing its antitrust exemption, forget about it. But I think it is interesting that the Teflon-coated NFL is getting some resistance. I mean, if we're talking about a $16 billion a year media rights, platform that seems to be on its way, yeah. The NFL makes too much money for me to really worry about this, especially when it comes to Congress, like the fool in Florida. I'll get more about him in a minute. It's great for headlines when gas is $6 and trying to buy an SD card. Now you have to resort to a life of crime to get storage and other things that are causing people all sorts of sticker shock. Whew. Then the NFL also this past week has asked prediction markets like Kalshi to stop manipulable trading. Whatever the hell that really means. I mean, I know what it means. But it's just, the whole prediction thing is something that came across the bow. And I was not prepared to now we're dealing with this too. But the NFL and others looking at this and saying, nah, this is not good. Or if it's going to be good, we got to make it so it looks like it's got integrity and we're getting our cut. Because that's the real important thing. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the league this week. I mentioned earlier that Chucky's lawsuit's going to go forward middle of next year. You also have the leagues saying this week that they will step in to correct any obvious errors made by replacement refs if we go down that road. And what does Ken say about that? What could possibly go wrong with this one? When you all can't get it right, when you have the regular crews in there and you have replay assistants and you still F things up, how am I supposed to think, well, yeah, don't worry. We're here to make sure that everything stays on it'll stay on the rails. We get that. But do I have any faith that the product won't suffer? Yeah, you tell me. Okay. Then we've got Captain Kirk. Yes, making all sorts of news. now that he has found a home in Las Vegas, of all places for that goody two shoes. But he basically just said, look, man, if I'm not the best quarterback on the roster, then I shouldn't play. Yeah. I know what a petulant bitch you are, so come on. You're not convincing me of that statement in 9 lifetimes. You know, the whole thing with Mendoza, which I think most folks don't think he's going to be ready to be a starter week 1. So it's easy for Captain Kirk to come out and say that. I just wonder, are the Raiders going to trade that pick? Yeah. Probably not. I don't know what kind of market there would be, or in terms of where it would be the Raiders in the Raiders' best interest to move him. I mean, heck, like I said, if you can get a haul for him, I just don't know if teams want to give up a haul for him. Right? This isn't Herschel Walker we're talking about here. Just saying, y'all. Okay, the Texans pick up options for C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. What does that mean? Well, we know Will Anderson. That guy's a baller. So no problem there. And CJ, hey, he's been in the playoffs here. He's been catching a lot of criticism here and other places, kind of saying, I mean, I went on that rat a few weeks ago about Ohio State quarterbacks. Is he falling into that realm? But the clear thing being signaled by the Texans brass is that he is still the dude. So we shall see what happens. What was that? What would this be? Year 4? Okay. Kyle Pitts signs a franchise tender. My question is, does he get a fat deal, or does he actually get traded by June? Because a lot of folks have been licking their chops, wanting to add him to their package. But I think he stays in Atlanta, and I think a fat deal does get done as far as Mr. Pitts is concerned. The Falcons drop new unis. The internet loses its mind. Me, personally, I'm not that impressed. I would have liked to have seen them go to a more retro look. I mean, it pays homage to, those classic red jerseys they had back in the day, but to me, it didn't go far enough. And the internet losing its mind over it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Another thing I was not impressed with, why do we have all these fools in the media still caping for Shedeur Sanders? I mean, what the hell, man? I mean, I saw this with a clown on ESPN, and I'm thinking, if it's a quarterback competition and he's good enough to win it, which is probably going to be an open competition with him, Dylan Gabriel, and obviously Mr. Watson. If Shedeur is good enough to win it, leave it at that. Stop caping for him. What, are you so enamored with trying to get on Deion's good side and trying to be part of the bro posse? Stop it. I mean, if the kid's good enough to win the job, he will be the starter on opening day. If he's not, it's going to be either Mr. Watson or Dylan Gabriel. But I hear Dylan Gabriel is so disillusioned by this bullshit. He's looking anyway out of Cleveland. So we'll see. Another thing that's interesting to me is, I just saw this. Like 2 or 3 guys retired this week, and they were like not even 30. And I've brought this up a couple of times over the years. And I just wonder, is this really a trend, because you're making so much money now in college. You're not a dumbass. You've already got a couple of bags, and you get a rookie deal into a second deal. And hell, I can see people not having the stomach for the game. If, you've got a nice family, or you just want to go out and be that dude. I can only see by the time you're 28, 29 in this particular era, like, fuck it. Pardon my language. I know we really need another jar for the cuss words, but yeah, I think it's more. It's going to be more common as we move forward. Of cats just saying, What else do we have? We got the Seahawks are going to be featured on this year's Hard Knocks. And we got to ask, do we see a jinx incoming as far as that is concerned? How will Mr. McDonald and JSN and Mr. Darnold and all those other badasses who just lifted the trophy, can they repeat? That's one of the intriguing crystal balls we will be looking into once we get past the draft and start, doing our little capsules as we do when the news cycle gets slow. I know another thing I saw that was kind of interesting this week on social media. It keeps coming up in my feed. Somebody keeps chastising the Cowboys because they're never going back to their classic blues of the 70s. And the Rams, too. It's like the Rams come up with all these different uni combos, but they never pay truly homage. They did it with a helmet, but never the actual blue and white jerseys that they wore after they abandoned the blue and gold scheme that they had in the 50s. But the Cowboys and those classic blues they wore in the 70s, I don't know why. I mean, right, you've had enough disappointment in the last 3 decades. It's like, hey, for kicks and giggles, But Jerry's like, Ken, do you really think I need another revenue stream? Right? I'm Jerry Jones. I got Jerry Jones bucks. Okay. The trucks from the foundry, they showed up yesterday, left it. They said, hey, you know what? So the stainless steel bowls that contain the smelliest varieties, they are really ripe today. It's TMCA time where we give out stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties that come in complimentary regular and XL sizes for those whose deeds during the week have earned that distinction, or as we like to say, them being who they be. Consult the wire as far as the inspiration for this segment. I'm going to give 2 XLs, one for Commissioner Garber, one for the league. We'll make it 3, and one for the Hall of Shame. MLS coming out this week saying that local access is a dead avenue, which is to me so frigging mind-blowing. I've talked about it so many times. The biggest mistake of going to Apple was freezing out the local markets where you cannot attract casuals to, especially with the away games. And yeah, come on, MLS. You cannot be this stupid. You gotta provide more access. Shame on you, Commissioner Garber, for even saying something so silly as that. Okay. 2 XLs, 1 each for Braves and Rossini. Whatever y'all are doing, the fact that it became a national story, that's worthy of both of you getting an XL. Enjoy. This is really ripe. I'm going to give the NCAA 2 XLs for having the championship game on TBS. What the hell? Have the game on over-air channels. This idea of having the Super Bowl on a streaming platform like I mentioned earlier. F all this nonsense, okay? No, not feeling it. Robert McIntyre. Yeah, flipping the bird at Augusta, doing an obscene gesture. It's like Brandy Campbell said. There's a certain reverence for being on that hollow ground. I get the frustration and all that kind of stuff, but come on, man. Okay, so we are going to go. This is the Hall of Shame, right? Complimentaries all around, and like 3 for the Hall of Shame, 3 XLs for the internet weirdos. Well, right, with all the stuff going on, like I've been saying throughout this episode, the pennies from heaven, right? When you got Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Diana Rossini, Stephen A. Smith, Acho, and a cast of all kinds of freaks just chasing for clout and clicks. Oh, good grief. Sure, it gives me and others stuff to talk about, but it is so exhausting, over time. Yeah. I'm going to give an XL to Angel Reese. for being such a lovely person that her former teammates probably threw the party of the 2020s when her ass got traded to Atlanta. And props still to the guy who came up with the brick theme Atlanta Dream jersey. Oh man, me bounds, me bounds. Oh, yes, and ESPN's Kevin Clark. You're gonna get two, right? Because right? Because you were one of the guys that was keeping for Shador when you didn't need to, and then you coming out and saying college football does not need fixing. British Petroleum. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, so you get two XLs. I'm going to give CNN two XLs. Why are you picking on CNN, Ken? For not checking your facts, okay? I mean, I find your coverage nauseating anyways, but that's been me for years. But now, you're not checking your facts. In a world where the internet is killing people every day, only for them to be alive, especially people, that have some note of celebrity. Well, CNN apparently got information, didn't check the facts, that said Michael J. Fox. Yeah, that Michael J. Fox died. Only they have Michael J. Fox. Like he says, I hate to break it to you folks, but, I'm still kicking it. May not, be dapper, but I'm still kicking it. So an outlet like CNN not checking your facts, shame on you. Okay. I'm going to give an XL to Florida Attorney General James, what is that? Uthmeyer, the guy who's coming after the NFL and a bunch of other things. It's like, bro, stop trying to build your brand. I mean, okay, you can build your brand all you want, but stop using sports stuff that you're not going to have no impact as far as actual change to these bodies. You're just building your brand, probably trying to become a national figure in the GOP. Dude, give it a rest. There's plenty of... Actually, maybe do your fucking job and not try to grandstand and grab headlines this way. Do your job and make sure we have a quality life for all Americans. That's more important than worrying about the Rooney Rule or some of the other bullshit you're trying to tackle. All right, I'm going to give a XL here as well to this Nikki Glasser. Another TMI weirdo. I don't care about your freaky deaky and that you have waterfalls about your husband hooking up with other women and whatever freaky shit you guys have got going on. It's like Dante Wilder last week. Now this week, this Nikki Glasser. We don't need it. We don't want to hear about it. I don't talk about what I do, so I don't want to hear what you do. And you think because you're a celebrity, we actually should give a shit. Yeah. No. Okay, lastly, I got to give Alaska Air and all you other carriers nickeling, diming us to death with these fees. I mean, come on, man. You basically got to become chiefsaholic and resort to a life of crime just to pay all the bagging fees and all the other bullshit that you heap upon us. All right, yeah, we're getting salty here at the finish line, folks. Okay, that's some TMCA time for you. It's time to really saddle up here and watch the Masters and MLS and NBA. Yeah, right. As always, stay safe. Definitely stay sane. You got to avoid the bracelets. Enjoy plenty of adult bevs. Good food, good company, especially the people that matter in our lives. Keep smiling. Enjoy all the good things that this world has to offer. And, when the bad shit happens, just have an adult beverage and just say there'll be a better day tomorrow. Okay, folks. Keep it real and tight. Look out for another Aftershocks early in the week. A lot of exciting stuff going on there, and who knows what else may come out of the Foxhole in the days to come. We'll see you soon, folks.